Hello. Okay, Lauren, I got to ask you, what did you think of the bass line in there?
It was nice. I do very much like this intro.
I think the bassist probably could have done a little more as it got going, but yeah. But it's free. It was free music for me, so I'm not going to complain.
That's right. For you.
But
Lauren, do you play in a band?
I do not currently play in a band. In my past lives, I played in orchestras and I played in bands.
so you did the bit? Did you do the big upright bass in the orchestra or
I have
something else?
done upright bass primarily when I was in college, was mostly bass guitar.
Right. Cool. Well, I mean, well, anybody that has watched us before will know Mike and I are music fans too. So we kind of couldn't do the episode without asking you, because we know that you've done that, but we don't know like who you played for or where you played or whatever. But yeah, why don't you let us know? Tell us about your music experience, or tell us about like how you transitioned, because were you doing that professionally before you started going into other areas? Or no?
Yeah. Well, technically, the definition of a professional musician in the United States in the Federation of Musicians is that you get paid for a gig.
Right.
So the moment someone puts $1 in your hand, you're a professional musician.
Right.
So I've been playing. I played in the orchestra since I was in middle school, because that's how the school would raise money. So
Right.
At the time, we were considered the best middle school orchestra in the country. We toured all over the place. We recorded music. We performed with Grammy nominated and Grammy winners, from country all the way to hip hop, all the way through. I've been on TV multiple times. I've recorded for commercials, played gospel, and just a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That really helped pay for some of college.
Right.
I
Yeah.
was paying. And
Yeah.
switch my major once you really start learning how people really get paid in the music industry.
Yeah.
So I've been around doing, little bits and pieces, but what I loved about it is really when I learned something, I like learning the history behind the instrument, the history behind the music I'm playing.
Right.
And so you run into these musicians who were there at the time and were the stage musicians. So you learn all these crazy stories.
Yeah.
To me. So if I'm in a live performance and I'm watching someone like at a jazz event or bluegrass, if I can get to the bass player, I'll always try to introduce myself to the bass player and
Yeah.
ask questions, because I think that's fun.
Yeah.
Are you a Tower of Power fan?
Yeah.
Mike is.
Mike is? Okay.
Mike is. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
He's very much. He loves kind of the. Is it mostly 70s pop rock?
Well, I like
Funk.
any rhythm and blues, soul, or funk.
Soul,
Tower
yeah.
of Power. Are you familiar with them, Lauren?
I'm a bit familiar. We might have did some cover pieces.
Yeah, probably.
Most likely. I played a lot of, at one point I was playing a lot of R&B, a lot of funk. We were playing a lot of Motown, a whole lot of Philadelphia sound stuff, and that's fun. Because it's the music I also grew up with it, in part because my mother was much older, so she listened to a whole lot of things, and so I've played everything from pop music of the time, when we're talking about 50
Right.
the way through current,
Right.
to playing classical music from different periods as well.
Yeah.
And
Are you a Larry Graham fan?
Yes. How could you not? If you like Prince, you have to like Larry Graham. It's like, oh, do you like James Jamerson? James Jamerson damn near invented modern bass playing, and
Yeah.
and people pay attention to that stuff. Like you got Flea, who used
Yeah.
to talk a lot about how much he used to study these guys and incorporate things into his playing. So when I listen to some Chili Pepper stuff, you would actually hear the influence. So that's how deep I can kind of get in a little bit.
Yeah.
You know that Larry Graham and Prince were Jehovah's Witnesses, and they would go door to door in Minneapolis, knocking on people's door to ask them if they wanted to talk about Jesus Christ. And I can't imagine you're at home and there's a knock on the door and Larry
Yeah.
Graham and Prince are there.
That would be like, you just like, who is this? Like you have to listen. Like
Yeah.
it's like so like they probably converted many people because people are like,
Yeah. Yeah. So so how did you get from doing music and stuff into all the other things? I know you're kind of an entrepreneur and you've been involved with a lot of different things. But how did you start making that transition, or were you just kind of finding it out as you experience different things and you're like, oh, I really like this. Let me try some of that.
for me, entrepreneurship has always been a part in some way. It may not have been like full time. I'm living off of it.
Right.
Because college and school and all that stuff was important, but you had to try to subsidize.
Yep.
Because I don't know what make the statement for today, but back when I was in school, there was something that happened called the financial crash, and
Yeah.
it was very difficult to. I'm from New York City, so it was very difficult to find even entry level jobs because the things in New York were already pretty bad in certain areas. I'm from the South Bronx.
Right.
And so when that happened, like it became difficult. I lost internships that I did all the crazy process to finally get in.
Right.
And it was actually a sort of paid internship, which wasn't much. It was like maybe $500, which is nothing compared to what they were asking you to do. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, and like it felt like an afternoon, everything was gone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you definitely had to figure out, have some type of skills. So mine was tutoring because I always tutored kids, and I used that as a way to, earn some money, which of course led to other things in terms of me learning how to write ads and do ad campaigns and stuff like that to grow that business, but translated to, hey, my family had a business and I know how to, Lauren kind of knows how to do this thing. And, for some people, this is like, oh, this is back in the early 2000s with computers and
Right.
certain things. So I was the one kind of doing that and figuring that out when things were very different. And so
Right.
that just continued as a skill set that has been extremely valuable, especially as I was working. I've had jobs, like I worked for government in different capacities. I've had corporate jobs and things like that. Because at one point I was like, well, if I'm going to be in entertainment, I was interested in intellectual property because that's IP. Everybody knows what IP is now. A few years
Right.
ago, people didn't understand what that actually meant.
Right. Yeah.
So I was into that stuff because that's how people got paid. And if you owned IP or how you managed IP. So I figured, let me go to law school, let me be the lawyer and be that person because those people get paid.
Yeah.
The musicians, not so much. So
Yep.
let me jump on that side. But unfortunately, financial crash also meant that law school costs, well, maybe that law school degree, which will cost you damn near $500,000 for about
Right.
years, was not worth what we would traditionally think it was worth. And that stuff started coming out
Yeah.
as well. So I made pivots to not go that direction.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And so with the crash that you're talking about, was that around the 2006 or whatever?
Yeah,
Or
2000, technically,
what was it?
I call it the crash of 2007, 2008. Of course, expands a
Right.
little bit further if you understand a mortgage. My degrees were in finance, so I actually wound up doing a dissertation on that period and what
Oh wow.
actually
Yeah.
happened. So yeah, but that's when things, unfortunately, the house cards fell down.
Well,
And
that's
for
and I yeah, I say this because I know you like reading and stuff, but I actually had uh I had a 3-book deal in the works
Ooh,
when the crash happened.
ooh.
And then like all the publishers were like, no new authors. So they're like we're only, and that's when they really doubled down, and it seems like they still do, on their most popular people. Like everybody wanted sure bets, so they started advertising Stephen King a lot more and all these big name people, and they just put all their stuff into that. And yeah, and other people are like, I don't know why they're always advertising. What about the new people? I was like, well, they just all lost millions of dollars and everything. So, and their money, because the thing was, is like that's the, like I had the deal. The main publisher said yes and was, but the money people said no. They were the ones that were like, no, we're putting a freeze on everything. We don't have the money. We can't take a chance.
Yeah.
And so like that fell through. And I know a lot of other people have had stuff like that, especially around that time. when just everything went down, and there were a lot of big plans going on, and then all of a sudden they just ended. But when did you? And I don't know how long you did that, but when did you get into doing? Were you doing proofreading, or what was it exactly you were doing?
I was doing some proofreading then, because especially after that time period, because once again, same thing, a lot of people lost deals at that time. But what was happening is a lot of publishers, they don't like to pay people anyway.
Right.
The publishing industry, because I almost got a job doing at a Random House, which is now Penguin Random House.
Right.
And
right.
so I almost had a job there. Of course, they wanted to pay, I think it was $35,000. Living in New York City on
I was gonna say New York City, that would be
that's poverty.
Yeah.
That's poverty. That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted to pay me to do some other work for them. But what publishers would do is they were looking for new material, but they wanted material that they knew had an audience. So they would canvas places like Reddit and Tumblr, wherever the writers were writing fan fiction, fanfiction.net, adult fan fiction, looking for people who could write stories that were seeming to getting a lot of hits. And they were slipping these very bad deals to people who were just excited that someone from Random House was thinking of talking to them. And some people took some very terrible deals that turned into really terrible books in a lot of cases. And so I was one of the people beta reading some of those stories before they got signed over, and even wind up beta reading stories for authors who they advertised for like a month. But it didn't do any more, but they're still signed because they make just enough sales, so to speak.
Right.
So I was doing that, reading over stuff and like reorganizing people's books, kind of on the side at that point.
Oh, cool.
Are you a publicist?
No, I am not a publicist.
What services do you offer for somebody who's trying to promote a book?
For someone who's trying to promote a book, I'm more on the marketing sales side. Like I like make money, and I like my clients to make money, and particularly if you're a creative, because you literally have the easiest thing to sell versus insurance and car insurance, which I have sold in the past for clients. So for them, it's like making sure their website or their tech stack, meaning you have a website, you have a way of collecting data, aka the email list or a text messaging list, and you have a way of selling on that site. If you're selling directly, or being able to properly track if you're trying to use paid advertising. Those are some of the things that we do. I've been doing for creators, some people who are friends of mine.
Yeah.
Do you take a hand in web design?
Yeah, I've done some. I create websites usually all the time. If you're looking for like grade A stuff, that's not my skill set. But yeah, I put websites up, and I make it independent. I try to teach my creators to be a little bit more independent on their tech stack, which is something that a lot of agencies don't do. They want the creative fully dependent on them. So I have creative friends whose names have names out there in comic book space who can't do anything on their website. So they call me like, hey, I'm in trouble. I'm like, what's going on? Oh, I want to put this on my website. Okay, cool. Where's your password and username? I'll see if I can fix it for you. They don't have it. So they have no control of their website. They can't do anything. The person or company disappeared. And so I try to teach the folks I work with securing yourself. Like if something happens, you still need access to your own website. You need access to your list so that you can move, because sometimes things happen. People get kicked off of platforms. So it shouldn't be complete panic mode. It's like, all right, well, this freaking sucks. Well, we'll just be over here now. And everything relatively continues like regular. So I'm a big proponent of teaching my creators I work with of what happens when you get kicked off, and here's how you secure yourself, as well as continue to monetize yourself over time. So hopefully maybe you can fully support yourself. Or, when the bigger publishers decide to look at you and say, hey, I want you, because a lot of the game now is they want you to have your own audience and they want you to do the marketing job for them.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So, okay. So take us from just for, especially because some of our audience will be new and they're just starting out and doing things. Take us from like square one, and whether it's comic, I mean, you could pick whether it's comics or novels or whatever, but whatever you think they should do to start building up their social media and how to think about marketing, but also kind of like what you said about like, where they can make money to be able to keep their career going too.
Right. So if you're the person who's just starting out scratch, you're like, hey, I think I want to make comics. Know if this is a hobby or profession. First, there's a lot of people who are hobbyists versus people who are trying to do this professionally. With comics, it's the margins are terrible. So know that first. I will say, because it's margins on books and other things and toys are usually much better. Comics, they have, because of all the things that go into comics, it's just what it is in the rising cost. So understand that, because your plan might be a few years in the making. But if you're serious about this thing, then then great, you're committed. So the first thing I think is understanding what your tech stack should be. So these are all the software tools that you're going to need in order to operate your business, right? So that is your website. That is going to be your email list provider, whoever that might be. A lot of people like MailChimp because it's free. I personally dislike MailChimp because it's unnecessarily difficult to get emails out. And what people don't realize is that there are a lot of words that are blacklisted on these email service providers. So if you're writing a comic book and you write the black hat, well, that's a banned word on MailChimp. And so now your email delivery goes to shit. So
right, yeah,
that sort of thing. But your website, having an email newsletter, which you're building a list from your website, that's your primary purpose of your website. Having ability to sell your stuff. If you're selling on Amazon, beautiful, you're selling on Amazon, right? If you want an e-commerce site built into yours, well, then you have WooCommerce, you have Shopify, you have a lot of options to do the same thing. But that should be some of the basic tech stack. When we come to social media, well, then this is where things get tricky, because it's like, hey, there are a million social media platforms out there. YouTube, Twitter, big on authors and everybody else. You got Facebook, you got Instagram, you got TikTok. It's like, oh, do I have to be on everything? Yes and no, right? I think you should focus on YouTube. I think it's good to focus on, especially if you're an artist, because people like to see things and see what you draw. So things that are visual, YouTube, Instagram. I forgot to mention Twitch for streaming as well, and things like that. So pick one, pick two. You can have a presence where you focus the most and repurpose content for the other ones, which
right.
I think is a better deal for most people. But definitely, if you're an artist, you need a visual platform. So Instagram is a nice visual platform. But you know what? People actually do like to see you guys work. They like to see you draw.
Right.
So pick a streaming platform, or if you don't want to stream, YouTube is great. Post some YouTube videos. YouTube traffic is tied to Google, which gets you this beautiful thing called SEO. So you can have your channel, post videos of you doing some sketches. You can do lives there. You can turn around and put your website links or the links to wherever your stuff is sold right there in description, and that gives you a little SEO power. So you're killing a lot of birds with just using two primary platforms. If you're a writer, of course, I have not figured out how to type fiction and work on YouTube at the same time. For me, it don't work. But you can talk about the thing you are creating, or how to think about creating books or novels, or how to construct a character if you have that type of expertise, because people love watching that on YouTube. There is a huge artist community on Twitch where people draw, or they talk about how to draw. They talk about the characters they're thinking about creating and how that might work. And they've garnered an audience of people just love to watch.
Yeah.
And out of those people who love to watch, you drop your links and all those beautiful things to, move them to the next level of sales, as well as putting them into a place where you can control more of how you present yourself and how you sell your product, which is going into an email list or a text notification list as well. So having those basic things in place and taking your time and building those things will pay you back in dividends. That's what has happened with guys like Brandon Sanderson developing his YouTube channel over the years, which has contributed a lot to that Kickstarter being where it's at. And people leave out YouTube. People discovered Brandon from YouTube because I'm sorry. I mean, he might be the darling, as a lot of my writer people on my Facebook page like to say. I said, yeah, but Tor doesn't really advertise him. They're not the ones advertising him.
Yeah.
YouTube, Google is advertising him.
Yeah. Well,
do you have comic book clients?
I do have a couple of comic book clients. I got folks that who do other things. They're business owners who've been writing comic books, who are publishing, that are coming out. And I have folks who have been indie publishers doing their thing. And sometimes it's just consulting. Hey, how do I do this? How do I kind of manage this? Because they have a deal somewhere, but they're asking them, but the deal people asking them about, oh, how are you going to promote our book for us?
Right. Yeah.
Thing.
So what's your advice on what creators should say with that, or how they should respond with publishers or whatever that are saying that?
Yeah. So which is most of them.
Most of them, yes.
Shape or form, whether they're a penguin or
right,
or somebody who's built their thing over wherever,
right,
relying on you. And you have to look at yourself kind of as a micro influencer, especially if you do have a social media presence, you have some followers. My thing is always build your email list, build that. That is important because you own the data. You're responsible for it, which is basically, don't do stupid things.
Right.
But a lot of people don't do that. And that gives you leverage, because when theoretically Tor or whoever comes to you and say, hey, listen, I really like your book. Here's the deal. But this is how it's going to go. I need you to post 20 times on Twitter, post 7 times on Instagram, on this how many days I need you to do that, to leverage for our event or whatever. Guess what? Back in the day, people paid for that.
Yeah.
In a lot of instances. So when they come to you and say, okay, great, well, where is the compensation for that? Because they're expecting you to do that. Most creators do not have a social media team that will sit and create the graphics and go through all that process. So there's a planning involved and everything else to make sure things are hopefully right to work. So I would be negotiating, well, if you want me to do all of those things, how is that compensation factored out into whatever this deal may be? But if you have the email list situation, it's like a few years ago, Kevin Hart, I forgot one of the movies that he came out with, he has a huge email list that he's built over years when he was still doing stand-up. And one of the film distributors or production companies, because he owns one, came to him and say, hey, well, you have that wonderful list, is 500,000, 1 million people. Yeah, you're going to promote our movie on your list. And he said, yeah, when you write me a check. And guess what happened? They wrote the check. So nice. If you have those things, that is assets. You say, listen, Tor, guess what? Oh, I'll be happy to do all that. But guess what? I have an email list of X amount of people. I sell things to that list, and here's the around the sales we make every month or every year. And they're going to be like, yes, push your stuff through there. Great. Well, this is going to be the price for that. And that's a beautiful asset to have that I encourage creators to build, because it could be the difference between, you got, maybe a few $1,000s or even a 6-figure deal to something that balloons into a lot more.
Right. What, trying to think. So what, yeah, I did want you to touch on this since you brought it up. Since Mike frequently gets in Facebook jail.
Say it ain't so.
Yeah, and he'll say, and it will be the silliest little joke or something.
I'll give you an example. A Facebook friend says, I have ghosts in my house. I was advised to burn candles. And I said, you have to burn the house down. And within 30 seconds, I'd been banned for 30 days.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And so what? And yes, he is on other things. He does have, I think he still has his Substack page and everything too, but he is on Twitter. He is on Instagram. He is on a lot of different things. He's on a lot. For an old guy, he's on a lot. But like what like advice do you have for when people do go through that? Should he just really put more effort into the other things? Should he even consider leaving Facebook or something at some point, or no?
Well, I have thought about that. Everybody has thought about it,
Oh
and,
yeah,
and Facebook is losing people all the time. Unfortunately, there's no social media streaming service uh, that compares to Facebook right now. I mean, Twitter probably comes closest, and I don't know about TikTok. I have not gone there. I can't get on Reddit. I mean, they
yeah,
won't let me on Reddit.
Reddit's a special place.
yeah.
It's one of the special places online. When you get, yeah, because I've been in Facebook jail a time or two. It is not always good, or had other things happen, which is not
Right.
very fun. I've had clients where ad accounts have been shut down and subsequently affected me very much too, because of whatever. Nothing that they actually violated in TOS. Is just whatever they got going on back there. It did its thing and screwed a lot of people. But that's, to me, I've been in this for a long time, and that's part of the game. Like, expect to be kicked off a platform for a few days or even permanently for whatever the reason. I just try to warn people, like, don't give them a reason to, but it probably will happen at some point, which is why I am emphasizing the email list, because there are people that had, a bunch of followers that are active on Facebook, they're active on Instagram, and a lot of people sell a lot of things on Instagram, and the Instagram has changed uh, a bunch of times. Like, people were selling their stuff, and then all of a sudden Instagram shut down their reach.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Because Instagram has wants you to buy through Facebook, or
Right.
buy through Meta, or whatever the hell it is,
Right.
Meta,
Yeah.
right? And they created these integrations that, you got Facebook Marketplace, you got I think there's a Shopify integration that's coming, and so they want you to use these tools and not the way you were doing and selling and promoting yourself. And so it's pay to play in a lot of these platforms. So I'm like, if you're not okay with that, then you're always going to be in a situation. But I'm always like, I don't give a damn what social platform you're on. Twitch is really good for a whole lot of things. YouTube is very good because of the SEO power of Google, and you
Right.
don't need a lot for YouTube to work extremely well in terms of getting paid people to buy your stuff. So in terms of rankings, YouTube is one of the higher rankings in terms of, if you can build a following, if you can be consistent and engaged, you can build a lot of things on there. But I'm saying build the damn email list, because if you get kicked off of Facebook, and let's say you had 20,000 followers on Facebook, let's say maybe 17,000 were really, or let's say about 6,000 were really active people, you disappear. It's like, what the hell happened? You have no way of really communicating with them unless you create accounts and delve in that. But if you have an email list, you can be like, hey, y'all, they put me in jail again. The big blue, I'm in jail. So since we're in jail, let's have a sale. My comic XYZ issues 1 through 8 is out. Use this as the bail money. Bail me out of jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you get a bunch of sales because people don't like Facebook. So
Yeah.
they'll buy it just out of
That's
spite.
great.
Yeah. It's a bail bond.
Hang
What?
on, I gotta take my shirt off. Nobody's watching.
Uh-oh. What? What? I hope this doesn't have a Facebook symbol with the line through. Okay, good. It doesn't. What? So what are some of the best ways that people can build up their build up their email list?
Tell people you got email list. Like, always try to get people on the email list. If you are someone who has a physical good, or you have something to give them to bribe them into the list. So there's a couple ways. If someone's buying directly, if you own your own shop, so if it's a Shopify, WooCommerce situation, when you are collecting the payments, you're collecting the information anyway. Add them to an email service provider. Those are highly valuable folks because they paid for something, and people who buy from you are more likely to buy again, right? When it comes to different social media, if you're on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, whatever, encourage people to go to the email list. So if you have a graphic novel that you give out for free if they opt in.
Right.
Do things like that, or like stuff like, hey, I'm going to be going on YouTube Live, but the only way to know when I'm going is if you join my email list, and I'll answer a question. Stuff like that is very easy to get people to join an email list, and to actually grow your email list as well. Another way to grow your email list is if you know other creators who do have audiences that like some of the stuff. and who also have email lists, because most creators have email lists in some shape or form and they do not use them. So you can have, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do. And you can grow your lists that way as well, and also use it later on as a we call it list swinging, where I have my little list or I have my list and someone has their list, and
Right.
hey, I'll write about you to my list and take some of my core audience, let them go over there, and you write about me to your list and have them come to my list over here. We call that list swinging, and we do that a lot in marketing promotions to sell goods and services and grow everybody's list. So it's like all rising tides sort of a situation. So those are ways
Right.
that you can actually build your email list relatively easily, besides, doing the paid ad route of, I'm gonna do Facebook ads, I'm gonna do Instagram ads, I'm gonna do YouTube ads, in which, hey, the purpose is all to build my list. So hey, join my email list and you get this free graphic novel, or you get this free print, or whatever it is. Also, for those of my Kickstarter people, which is why I have some issues with Kickstarter. Kickstarter has a thing about you emailing people. Now they changed a lot of their policies, which freaking suck, because it does a great disservice for the creators.
Yeah.
A great disservice. What you can do on your Kickstarter is encourage people to join your email list by writing some stuff on there to get them on there. So you could be like, have it a part of the Kickstarter, because email lists have been the difference between a Kickstarter that has funded and not funded. A Kickstarter that was at 250 and now is at 750,000 and starting. So you can write some sneaky copy there to get in links to get people to your email list from your Kickstarter, as well as, remember, BackerKit, which people make you pay for. But guess what you need to collect from BackerKit? You need to deliver things. So you have to collect personal information.
Yep.
Make sure you have clauses in there to make sure you get those people who have backed your project on an email list as well. That is, if you are doing crowdfunding of any type, if you are not using your crowdfund to build your email list, especially if people who have said, hey, I believe in you in this project, you are a damn fool.
Yeah.
You was a damn fool. So make sure you do that.
I was gonna say, and I don't know how much you know about, like, I recommend to people, even if a lot of times BackerKit won't even barely talk to you unless you are like have a larger number. But BackerKit Launch is freaking phenomenal, because it does give you that information, and it's only to get the best amount of it, it's like $100 or something like that. But the greatest thing, and I'll say it for people that don't know, the greatest thing about BackerKit Launch is it does have the emails and everything. But one of the best things is when you plug your project, your campaign into and you attach it to Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever, it will tell you who on your list has actually pledged to those kinds of things before. And that is really helpful, because I mean, those people are like 10 times more likely to pledge than people that have never done it. So that is, I mean, really invaluable for people. And a lot of times, and that's why I tell people to try it, because when I've done it and when I've seen when other people have done it, you will find out people that that you would not even think would pledge to a Kickstarter or Indiegogo have actually done it, because like if they do, kind of like, like you a little bit or whatever, they like to help people, try to get their dreams and things out there. And I definitely recommend that. I did want to hit on, you said you're not crazy about MailChimp. Are there other mail services that you would recommend?
Right. So in terms of, people go to MailChimp because it's free.
Right.
And I'll give my opinion on certain things in a second. So you got MailChimp, you have SendFox that does allow you free email.
What was that word again?
SendFox.
FOX?
Yes.
FOX, yes. SendFox, they actually have really good deal. For $49, they'll allow you a list of 5,000, which is great because you don't have to pay for that month to month, because every other platform, they may pay for those emails every single month.
Wow.
So $49 to be like, I can have up to 5,000 people on my list is absolutely a steal.
So is that's yearly then for them? It's 49?
No, that's the one time.
Oh, for one time. Okay.
Yep, that's one time. So that's the beauty of them. So I recommended that to a few authors
Right.
that took the deal. So that deal is still available on appsumo.com, or if you go to SendFox, it will take you there as well. So really good deal. You got that Aweber, which is like has been around forever. They do charge you, but they do have a free tier now that lets you have a list up to 500. I call them old reliable because they have been around forever. And that's good to see in any type of SaaS or
Right.
tech platform. One that's been around for over 10 years is great. And their deliverability has been, in terms of getting your emails into the inbox, has been pretty good. So if you're like testing the waters and like, I don't know, 200 under emails, that might be a good thing. But you got SendFox, which you can initially use for free. But for $49, you can have up to 5,000 and never pay again on those 5,000. So you're good for a while, right? Before you get to a point. Well, once again, if you have over 5,000 people on the email list and you're not making no money on it, you're doing something wrong. Your email list should at least pay for you to have hosting on your email list and pay for the hosting and everything on your website. So that means you're not emailing, you're not selling people, you're not doing anything. Because there isn't such a thing called list health. So people join a list and no one ever emails them. And then they call me and be like, hey, Lauren, what do I do? Well, you're going to lose a whole bunch of people because they haven't heard from you. They don't forgot about you. Life has happened to them and you've never sold anything. So you're going to get a whole bunch of complaints from people. So when you start to go from marketing to attract people to what you do, who you are, and if they like you and the right people filtered in, we go into selling mode. Well, now we have to sell because we have to pay for all these things and pay for ourselves to eat. So you got to be okay with people, saying I'm anti-capitalist, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a damn.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. If you don't want to buy, you don't have to. I really don't care. So people have to develop that type of thick skin. Like as a creator, you have to develop, hopefully, some thick skin when things don't go right. Like your comic sucks or your book sucks or your whatever you're doing sucks. And sometimes they do suck. So, you got to develop that. So those things are important in the game. My beef with MailChimp is one, it takes too long to get an email. It can be very complex for people who are not tech savvy. And even so, me being tech savvy, they just add so much stuff because they're trying to be everything to everyone.
Right.
Unfortunately. So there's just so much unnecessary things. So an email that should take you maybe 10, 15 minutes or less to get in and get out, it takes you a half an hour, an hour to actually get structured enough for you to actually put whatever you need to put into it. And that's one of my things with MailChimp, because a lot of artists, they're like, I don't know what to write. And now we have a platform that's free, but it takes me 30, 40 minutes to just create a template to me to even think of what I'm going to put into it. Makes people not want to email. And that's a problem.
So I know one of the things you keep saying is people having the website. Is that like, I mean, that's like pretty important, like having the email list, having a website so you can directly sell to people. Is that, I mean, I'm assuming that's the big purpose of having the website.
Well, here's the thing about the artists in their career, right? We have artists who are actively still working in the industry, let's say comics, right?
Right.
So I know comic book artists that have their own projects, but they also take commissions, and then they also work in the industry, DC, Marvel, whoever, right?
Right.
And so for them, a website my thing is a website's there to get you leads, to lead people to sales, right? So you either get on my email list on the basic premise, getting on my email list, seeing what I got. Do you like it? If you don't like it, you leave, which is good, right? People who do like it, you stay, and you're either buying something or you're jumping on my email where we can develop a relationship so I can get you to eventually buy a whole lot of stuff from me, over time, right? If you are someone who's actively looking for gigs, because you have people who miss out on gigs because people don't know how to contact you. Right. And so part of your website is, how can people talk to you? Like sometimes I want to, call somebody, hey, someone asked me about this and I'm trying to refer them to you, but how am I supposed to contact you? I got to tweet you publicly to get your attention. Right. Yeah. And not everybody needs to know your business. Right. Or I have to DM you through somewhere, and hopefully sometimes having a website that has something as simple as, here's my email for business stuff, or a form that collects business stuff. So if you're an editor or whatever, this is how you contact me. This is my business stuff. I reply within 2 days or whatever. That's important. a lot of artists and writers don't have that and miss out on opportunities because of it.
Yeah. So, and I want to ask this since Mike is wearing his sexy Florida man hat. So talk about that because I know it's, well, at least it seems to me that you're pretty big on using other stuff to sell, your IP or be able to make money from your IP or whatever.
Right.
Like how much and like what kinds of things are good for people to do like that? Well, like with Mike has his Florida man hats available, how much should people think about merch or whatever is, and I know like, major toys and things like that can get really crazy expensive
Right.
and stuff like that. But like what kind of other things or ways that creators can bring in income that makes sense if you're not rich?
Right. If it makes sense, you're not rich. So I will say this with some caveats because I
Yeah.
am not against necessarily Amazon, but I'm kind of against Amazon in certain ways.
Right.
Because we're not just talking about the splits between books and crap like that. Because I have
Right.
books and stuff that's published on Amazon, right?
Right.
Here's the thing: Amazon could be a great place for Amazon SEO. My folks who were in Twitter battles a few weeks ago about Etsy's raising its prices. Meanwhile, they spent all of their time they have websites. They literally have e-commerce and they use Etsy because the traffic from Etsy, and now Etsy raised all their prices. So now they're screwed right now.
Right.
So when I look at from a merch perspective, if you have, especially comic books, because they have low margin. So getting rich from comic books alone is extremely hard.
Right.
For publishers, they can't figure out how to really do it. It's hard.
It's about you can't even fund the next one.
I have a few comments about that. That's it. I know 5 or 6 guys: Billy Tucci, Graham Nolan, and every one of their campaigns goes into 6 figures.
Right, if they do their numbers right, because there's a whole thing with like people don't understand. Like I've people who I love dearly who, when we go over their Kickstarter finances, they don't finance correctly or plan out correctly. I'm like, oh, I rate, he did like 120,000. I was like, great. So my opinion, you should be good. He said, no, I'm struggling. I was like, why are you struggling? Because he didn't think to pay himself to put that in the damn Kickstarter. So he literally has this huge Kickstarter. It did well. And he's struggling to pay his bills because he never factored in any money for himself. That's what I think about. That wasn't smart planning.
Right. Yeah.
It's like it's not good.
Yeah, that's where you got to really consider the profit too, because it's easy to look at people that do well. And that's the thing. Some people that don't raise that much, but their profit margins are decent.
Right. And because they consider themselves. So even like understanding basic finance and how much you're taking on Kickstarter. So I'm all for people like their Kickstarters that do like $30,000, and I know that the creator themselves, half of that's going to him, or semi half of it's going to him because he budgeted it out for himself so that he can actually concentrate, finish the project, and get it out on time when he said he was going to get it on time, which is why he does what he does, right? Which is beautiful because people doing Kickstarters or Indiegogos forget that part that you have to pay yourself, because especially if you're doing most of the work, if you're going to be doing shipping, packing, picking, that's a job. And if you're doing it by yourself or you have to pay other people, which you should consider paying other people, because just having a pizza and having everyone come over and then dripping crap all over your books is not a cool thing either. So considering, those things just for, financial planning. But in terms of getting back to the original about merch, like if you have a Florida man, and depends on how you're doing it. If you're selling it out of yourself, you're going to be the one shipping it. If you don't have a distribution center who's going to be taking care of that part of it, you could just do it from a WooCommerce site or Shopify yourself and just have that connected correctly and do it there versus having it on Amazon. Because if you have it on Amazon and then you ship it to Amazon, let Amazon do fulfillment. It's just a pain in the ass, because what happens with Amazon is if you're selling yourself on Amazon and you're the one shipping it out yourself, what winds up happening, if you don't ship it out on time, Amazon will penalize you. And that's not a good thing, especially if you rely on Amazon. So people have gotten into that situation. It's not easy to get out of. A lot of times you can wind up losing all your accounts and stuff on Amazon. So if you're doing it yourself, then you can control and say, oh, I'm sorry, it's a day late. And, people are very forgiving. Amazon is not with that sort of thing. But what you want to think about is, okay, I got my comic. My comic is, I don't know, I'm selling it for $20 online. my margin is, I don't know, $1 a comic, let's just say for the hell of it, right? Well, what's the next thing? Because we're trying to build, people bought this comic. It's going to take me 6 months to get the next Kickstarter going for it. What's the other things I can have people do or buy from me to keep their interest, right? So now here's the Florida Man hat. So if you're shipping it yourself, put it on a website. That's a beautiful thing to say, hey guys, if you haven't gotten the Florida Man hat, you could sell that through your email list, sell it through your social media. What's the next thing? Well, if you have pens that you have branded, or you have shirts you have branded, or you have special art, you go to somebody, pay an artist to do some prints, you get to make sure you have your rights to it, and you can sell it directly on your website. You keep most of the profit when you do it that way versus always having to split with Amazon. What I like to do with Amazon, because Amazon is important in the ecosystem with having some of your stuff up there, I might not put all of my stuff up there, but what I do in the cover at the end of the book, if they have a physical book, there's a QR code that sends them to my website to build my email list. There's a QR code that has them go to my website to get a special discount. So I take them back to me. So if you're sending traffic to Amazon, make sure you have Amazon send traffic back to you by putting those things in your physical goods, or even if it's a digital good on Amazon, let's say it's a Kindle book, make sure you have something in there. Now they have clickable links in Kindles, but also a QR code. So, hey, this QR code is going to give you a 20% discount on Florida Man hat. There's only 150 blue ones out there that are signed by me. Grab yours now. That's a beautiful offer. If they like your stuff, they'll definitely jump on it. So you use that sort of thing to drive traffic back to you, to your website as well. That kind of stuff is how you use Amazon to make sure it helps you in some way, because Amazon love to help Amazon. So that's how I would think about it. You're like, this is the front end offer, as we call it. This is my book. This is my introduction to you. Cool. Now I have the hat or the shirt or the pen, whatever that is, and I sell those things. Because if you can keep people buying in between your Kickstarters or crowdfunding efforts for the next few issues, then they're more likely to pledge, and pledge big, because they're already used to spending with you. They've already spent $150 from you. So when you have the Kickstarter that goes all the way up to $200, you're most likely to go get them to pledge higher.
So I know you're somewhat, and I know you've been, I know you were surprised at how bad the profit margins were in the comic industry and a lot of that stuff. But yeah, like
box, I had to buy them things. I was like, damn, yeah, this is terrible.
Yep. I'm just wondering where you see like the kind of the comic industry and the publishing industry going, like where people should be. Is it going to be mostly funded via Kickstarters and things like that, or are there going to be some other options or ways that people should focus on stuff?
Relying on comics only and graphic novels especially it depends on what type of comic it is, because there's a lot of confusion, because there's a lot of data, and I pay attention, like Chronicron, the data in terms of sales and everything else and how people count things. The data is not good.
Right. Yeah.
Horrible. The amount of, there's so much that's missing that doesn't make sense, because I'm in other spaces where you got webtoons. I mean, you have people who create web comics that are not your traditional superhero comics in the American sense.
Yeah.
But do very well with other audiences. So there are some people who do extremely well with garnering attention to leverage themselves to other things or movies, if that's what their case is. One, we need better data. We damn sure need better data in terms of accountability. I think numbers are being fudged, the way we're counting comics, the way we're counting it from what's sold in stores. They did not count online comic sales at all. Do you see that?
Yeah.
They don't. We have no idea really what online comic sales really are, because we're so focused on, if whoever distributed is this, this store ordered 500 copies, this store ordered 200 copies, this store ordered 10 copies. Like, that model does not represent what's actually being sold. They're just telling us the wholesale. They're not telling us the actual consumer numbers, which of course affects everybody in terms of they're writing different comic lines and what works, what doesn't works. Also, how we count graphic novels, because there's a whole line of graphic novels that are doing very well, but it's not really in the traditional comic book sense, and they don't really count it that way. So Random House counts it as a book, part of their book structure. So the data is bad in the first place. I think if you're doing graphic novels for kids or middle grade, you can do relatively well in terms of you want to do a big publisher or even do your big stuff and garner that type of audience if you do some of the things I've said all along here, because there is a huge market for that. I think people who are seeing a lot of success in terms of webtoons and stuff like that are doing different types of creative in terms of the comics, because it's not like people have stopped reading comics. One, it's not introduced. I think the comic book industry did a terrible job. The difference between the traditional publishing book industry is Random House knows that if people don't learn how to read, they're out of business.
Yeah.
They know that. Unfortunately, Marvel, DC, and others did not take that approach as much when it came to schools. You know what? They didn't think, you know what? If kids don't learn how to appreciate comics and how to read a comic, we might go out of business in a few decades.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they didn't really do that at all. And they're suffering because of it, because a lot of people are not exposed to any comics outside of a newspaper. And how many people get newspapers now? So where are they exposed to comics? How to read a comic, when to tell if a comic's bad. That's why you can have comics with horrible lettering.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell's going. I had to read a comic 3. I'm like, what? Wait a minute. I think they meant this. Only to go on Twitter to verify that they made a mistake in the printing.
Yeah.
I was in a Barnes and Noble today, and I was looking at the graphic novel section, which was pretty darn big. And I would say at least 1/3 of it had nothing to do with traditional comics, Marvel, DC, Boom, Dark Horse.
Yeah.
These were very personal books, like autobiographical or stories about the Middle East or something. Or I think of Barry Smith's Monster. He finally produced this book called Monster. It's like 250 pages, and it did extremely well. And he's with a traditional publisher. So the traditional publishers are doing graphic novels. They're just not trying to compete at all with the superhero field.
No.
No, that's not where it's at. I know.
Because that's the profit margins aren't there in the direct market, really.
No, not they aren't. There, and Barnes Nobles is struggling as it is.
I pray that they hang in there. They're the last bookstore.
I know, and I love going into book sale. I love going to Barnes Nobles. I need them to hang on. I love doing that thing. But yeah, the graphic novels. If you know how to adapt graphic novels and like autobiographies, they're like Martin Luther King, all about Frederick Douglass has been turned. They turned them into graphic novels, and apparently the graphic novels did really well because there's another market when it comes to those types of graphic novels, particularly the educational, because they can sell to all the school systems, and the school systems buy hundreds to thousands at a time of those. So you can make a good money if it's like I can write a really good, autobiography of Frederick Douglass, and I can have a really good artist and have it really done beautifully and sell it to a school system in New York, a district, and I'm gonna sell 2,000 to 3,000 copies because they need to fill the school district and then they need to fill the libraries. And so there are people who are jumping on that side of the market. Actually, the NFL had sponsored or a couple of different artists to do a graphic novel based on hockey, and apparently that did decently enough that she got pulled into another project with something else. But you have sports teams saying, you know what, we want to be kind of immortal or seen differently, not just the the big books thing. Because here's the thing, I used to work in education. A lot of people are dyslexic. A lot of people have trouble reading a whole bunch of words on a page, but comics or graphic novels make it easier to understand what's going on for people. So they found they can get kids and such to read more if it's in this format. So if you want to be, in the right spot, let's create the graphic novel for this sports team or the history of this. And it's done. There's a lot of Black history graphic novels that are really good, where they get to tell the stories of some interesting people who we never learned about, and they're entertaining. They're well done,
right?
Entertaining, and they sell thousands of copies on the low because they're sold to school districts. So there's a market for it, but our accounting for all this stuff is really crappy, unfortunately.
Yeah, and obviously the problem is, and a lot of the people in the comic industry know this, that it just so much of this stuff depends on like us being fanboys and wanting to write superheroes and stuff. But yeah, like you said, and really, it's funny. I was thinking about it when you said it's definitely got to be a lot more interesting for kids to read a graphic novel about Martin Luther King than a book that doesn't have like that many pictures or whatever. It's definitely going to be a lot more exciting for kids to read stuff like that and actually see, because it's, you know, you have different images and different things going on, so it's not always just words, you know, of reading a book. And because I was kind of surprised. I'm still a little bit surprised that kids graphic novels do better than like shorter kids comics, because what most adults think is that they have a short attention span. So you know, they're you know, it's better to do like a shorter thing. But man, like kids love like 200-page
Oh yeah,
graphic novels and stuff.
they work because we're trained on cartoons. It's like, you know,
Right.
problem with comics is comics goes wherever it goes, but a lot of us were raised on what we know of DC, what we know of Storm, and what we know of Superman is for me mostly is cartoons. And I've watched like Superman through the years, like propaganda Superman, when he was
Right.
fighting the Germans and it was black and white, and
Yeah.
like old Disney stuff that I think they banned from the Vogue because it was the man shot. I've watched all of that, right? And that,
Yeah.
so I've seen it through iterations of cartoons and stuff like through the years, like X-Men and things like that, you know, through the years, and people haven't gotten it. A kid will turn around and read a 200-page graphic novel, because a graphic novel, if the artist and writer are smart, you better entertain and keep people's attention.
Yeah.
Like most history books are not written very entertaining.
Right.
And even for, like, you know, you're dealing with someone who's 14 or 15 years old or even younger or older, they don't write history books very entertaining. So I'm a nerd. I love that stuff, but it's much more interesting and immersive to actually pick up the graphic novel and see these pictures. And the crazy thing about historical stuff, we have literal pictures and paintings of historical stuff that you can
Right.
turn around and put into it,
Yeah.
which is beautiful. So they do extremely well in these markets. You can turn around and make a career saying, "Hey, I'm going to do the American West, the graphic novel series, and just keep doing it." And you're going to hit the kids, you can hit adults who love that side of stuff, and you can make a nice living. You can have some nice Kickstarters with that sort of historical content and teach people about things that they didn't know, if you're into, or create something else out of it, because they do very well.
That's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah, and it's honestly, because that is the big thing, and like you were saying too, because I know I've looked at a lot of the numbers and stuff too. I mean, like there's no comparison between like the webtoons market and the direct American market. I
Yeah,
mean, like
webtoons killing
webtoons
it.
and stuff is just destroying, and they're making profit, where the American direct market is barely hanging on. And I mean, obviously they're finding ways to get into the black and do different things, but it's like, man, but they're killing it with the online stuff. And like you said, I mean, a lot of it is like what they call like slice of life kind of stuff, where
Yeah,
it's more normal. It's just like whatever regular life stuff, which it's so funny because me, like, I love science fiction and fantasy and stuff like
yeah.
that. I was like, if I want real life, I'll just go outside and live a real life. Like I don't necessarily want my entertainment to be that, but at the same time too, it's like, yeah, it just depends on how well you do it. I mean, I mean, like Mike and there's a bunch of people who are just really good at doing, you know, kind of real life stuff, set in real settings that are extremely entertaining because they have a good sense of humor or a funny way of looking at things, or, you know, whatever. But I definitely recommend that people really consider, yeah, like, do you want to do that? Because there is a market for it. They make better money. You know, you'll still, I don't know how much you've been involved with any of that. I'm assuming that they still do not, just like Brandon Sanderson,
Mhm.
that you're still going to be dependent on yourself to do a lot of promotion and
Yeah, you are
social
dependent on yourself
media
because you
stuff.
gotta hit, especially because their model is changing, is what I thought they would have to do a few years ago, watching these things kind of happen.
Right.
Because sometimes these industries are parallel to other industries in entertainment that have to go through the same thing, right?
Right.
So even the crazy thing is like for graphic novels and webtoons to do so well for something that doesn't really advertise as much. Webtoons does more advertise in terms of SEO and when they want to run. They're good at what we call retargeting. So when you hit their website, you're pixeled. If you go somewhere else and they feel like running ads, you'll run into a webtoons thing. Every Comic-Con, the big Comic-Cons, webtoons will be sponsoring the lanyards and they'll pay money for that and stuff like that. So they spend money to advertise in different ways. Could they do it a lot better? Yeah, absolutely. But like there's comic books on or comics on webtoons that turn around and are becoming Kickstarters. I actually wound up editing, fixing someone's copy for their Kickstarter page yesterday. And her whole thing is a webtoon. So think about it. People went to webtoons to read this for free.
Yeah.
And are now turning around and spending money to get a physical copy of something where they already know what happens.
Right.
They already seen it. Think about that. Ain't that crazy?
Yeah, but that's the whole kind of collecting, kind of completionist mentality that we have, especially if it's something that we love, like we want a physical copy of it.
That's right.
Right, and I'm a collector, so you telling me I'm like I bought 3 copies of different books, and I'm that person. Like once you get me to like your stuff, I buy all of it, and then I buy it again. Yeah, I'm one of those. So, but webtoons, even so, like there's people. If you're killing it on webtoons, like webtoons and YouTube and such, you should be building email lists. Now, webtoons does not make it good to build an email list, which is detrimental to the creator. Because I will say 100% when they want to say screw you, they're going to say screw you. And I think that will come later on for some people and they're going to be upset. But these platforms morph into that naturally as things happen and they have to deal with more crap, right? So I think folks on webtoons, especially if they're doing really well right now, I think a lot of people need to start getting on the ball of, I need to build my email list. A lot of them tried to build their Patreon passively, so they have to. There's no button that links out on a lot of times. They have to do this inside the comic or whatever. But I think they really should be doing that because there are people who are doing well on webtoons that I think would really kill it if they just had a little bit of, let me get people to buy something merch from me. Let me get people to do this. I think people make a lot more money on webtoons if they were just a little bit more active in that, because a lot of them they're doing well, they have an audience already. It's now time to get those people who are real fans, because it's the concept of having 1,000 real fans. For most people, if you get 1,000 to maybe 3,000 real fans for a small creator, you probably can eat for the rest of your life, as long as you create and sell things. And I think for those people who are veterans in the industry like Mike and such, for those of you who have an audience, you have a core group, what your core group likes, right? And so it's about gathering your core group and people who are going to join that core group and using it to your advantage of having them in a place where, hey, I can email you when I want to. I can sell things when I want to put you in a better negotiating position or financial position when you are approached by different people. Hey, I want to take your IP and make it a potential movie and what that looks like. There's a comic book studio, which I think they made a mistake with one very large studio. And now I don't think their thing is getting actual made, but they took the money and it kind of screwed them over for Kickstarters. Because what folks don't know is that if your thing gets picked up and you start promoting, this Fox or whoever, Sony or whoever is going to make a movie out of my comic and and it looks beautiful, looks nice, and they promote it. And here's my thing. I want to see a trailer and a date. It's not real to me if there isn't a trailer with a release date. And now we're 6 years later, because I understand how that works. You could be in development hell forever and ever and never get made. So what happens with that? As promotion tool, they then try to do their next Kickstarter, and people on Kickstarter said, well, screw you. You got X money. You got HBO money. You got Sony money. I don't need to give you money. And that's what happens, and it kills their Kickstarters from that.
So I know this may be totally. Was there anything else you think you need to hit in that? Because I had a couple of other different questions for you.
Well, you want to hit with the Brand Sanderson stuff? Because I got some.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you can talk some about that. I had a question
on it because I was like, Brandon is like, I'm happy. I'm happy for any author who does their thing and gets their stuff right and puts all the work over the years. I think people forget years of work plus doing most of the things sort of right. He has a production studio. He has people he pays full-time salaries, health benefits. He has other consultants he hires. He has a warehouse. He has his stuff in. Like that costs a lot of money. A lot of time to build that up, right? His YouTube channel has grown over the years. He's really taken off during the pandemic when everything was shut down and people didn't do anything. So the first thing I said and got people try to hang me for it was I said, hey, creators, this is the time. There was no content. There was no new music. There was no new movies, TV shows, nothing. Because people couldn't film. I was like, if you're indie, put your stuff out now. Yeah. Put it out now because now you have all the attention. And the people who took advantage of that grew their channels, grew their Twitch, grew everything, and subsequently, grew their business. I mean, he's done a lot of things right over the years. I know everyone like to say, oh, he's the darling of science fiction and fantasy. I was like, yeah, I have yet to see a tour, Facebook ad, Instagram ad, YouTube ad, Google ad with anything Brandon Sanderson or anybody else. And they have the money to run an ad campaign.
Yeah.
So they wasn't doing it. And think about it. He could have made more money had he run some ads.
Yeah.
He could have made more money if he emailed his list a couple of times, but if he was more aggressive about it, could have. You know what he was doing? He was having some occasional lives and saying, hey, let me show you about secret project number 3 and having a 2-hour sit down and doing that and fielding questions. And then, oh, let me tell you about secret project number 4. And then, oh, let me update you on a novel that I'm 60% done with, or this is in editing now. Like, because he does those little things every week, he'll have like a 2.5-3 minute video every week just saying, hey, I'm 60% done. I'm 20% done. I went on vacation. I kind of slacked off a bit. Just little things like that. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do a lot for people. They just want to know what you're up to. Hey, I'm struggling with this, but this is coming out. Oh, check this out. Sneak peek. See you next week. Little stuff like that. That's it. Over time. Grows an audience.
Yeah. Do you, I think I seen you talk about this a little bit. What's the best way for people, for like Mike or I, different people to work on like our marketing? Do you kind of say like kind of do different days where you kind of put your attention on certain things, or
what you want to do, especially if you haven't been doing much, because some people get stuck on, if I have an email, what am I going to write? I'm like, write how you talk. So like, this is not something that needs to be a novelization. It could be 4 sentences.
Yeah.
Really like, hey guys, want to let you know I'm working on this. It's been a pretty good week. I hope yours have been doing well. And by the way, I'm going to do a podcast tomorrow. Here's the link. So now you promote the podcast, you said a couple of sentences, and that's it. Or if you're selling something, with the new issue of Florida Man is signed issues are out, and you're like, hey, what's up, y'all? Or whatever it is your intro is going to be.
Right.
Got 2 doctor's appointments, but don't worry, Florida Man is back. New issue signed. I only got 50 copies of that. Click the link now, and send that out a couple of times a week or so. I'm a big fan of daily emails and daily communications in that way. So you could be like, I'm gonna have a YouTube video. It's gonna be 3.5 minutes or 2.5 minutes, and it's just a little update. That's not enough to grow a YouTube channel, but just a little update just to get a video thing out there.
Yeah.
And then you can use the emails and accuse, hey, did you check out the YouTube? I have something to tell y'all. And then the YouTube, and then the next video, which will be a longer video, which could be like 10, 12-minute video, could be talking about whatever it is about your craft or about a funny story and integrating craft. Because what you want to do is build a relationship with your audience. Because if you go on to cons, people feel like they know you or they want to know you. They want to know more about it. You have people who want to learn how to draw, or people who aspire to do what you do, but they never will. So they live vicariously through you in a lot of ways, and just giving people that chance to do it. So putting, using your email and saying, listen, I'm going to do a YouTube video. I'm going to answer 10 questions. Send me some questions. When you start to build that engaged list, they'll send you questions. You turn that into YouTube content, a 10, 15-minute video. Now you record it, put that on YouTube or whatever day you want to put it on. It could be Wednesday, Sunday, whatever, and then have someone chop that video up. And now it's good for Instagram to answer one question is 3 minutes or 2 minutes. You could have someone put that on Instagram for you. So now you use one video to make content for an email, to make content for Instagram.
Right.
So you don't feel like you have to do a whole lot of content. No, just one content and just break it apart. Yeah. But you're still growing and building that engagement. Because if you have a relationship with your audience, they're more likely to spend with you because you're not a stranger. They want to. I want to read the next book that Mike comes out with. I want to read the next issue of whatever the podcast is, because EJS, you got a whole thing going down right there.
Yeah,
it's beautiful for email. One of the authors I helped out, he has a physical book, and he's turned it into, he's recording his own. I like to call it a podcast, kind of section like that. So I told him, use the emails to distribute. This is what you do it. He's doing it through SendFox. So when the let's say the first 5 chapters are done, he starts releasing the chapters through email. And so he constantly is engaging his list because he releases the chapters through email. So if you want a paid version of that, you can actually program it a certain way and be like, hey, $5 a month, you get the next new chapter or whatever it is you want to do. And it's the audiobook version. Right. And you just release a chapter just like that, because now it becomes old time radio.
Right.
And that's the kind of like cool things that you can do now. So you can take same book, it's already published, get people to make it sound good, make it a little drama, and you can section it out in pieces and chunks and have it be a weekly thing, have it be a monthly thing, whatever you want to do. And you can give it pieces away for free, or you can sell it however you want to test that out. But it just keeps people engaged. You're keeping people entertained, because here, we're all entertainers. And that's something we cannot forget. We are here to entertain in some shape or form. So you can write ridiculous emails. I mean, if you write science fiction, fantasy, if you're writing Florida Man, you can write all kinds of ridiculous stuff. You can talk about the next, you could be free. Just write how you talk. This is not perfect. This is not English class. Write your talk.
Right.
Say, y'all, what's up? How you doing? Whatever slang it is, make it a thing. You're trying to build your tribe and getting your tribe to know that to participate in your community, you also need some financial help from your tribe and things like that. So those are things that are very important.
Okay, I have a quick question about the Black Nerd Swag.
Yes.
That is mainly like one of those subscription box things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we were subscription box launched it in 2016, 2017, the end of 2016 into 2017. So December, launched it there. That was kind of my pet project, because I go to cons and I'm like, how do I get a ticket to one of these things for free? Oh, okay. People go on panels and stuff like that. What do I got to do to be on a panel? Oh, okay. I got to figure out something to do. Well, I'm not going to write stuff. I'm not going to, be a comic book artist. That's not my thing at all. But I am good at marketing. I am good at sales. And I wonder, I could put a subscription box together, and then you had loot crates. It's like, oh, that's how they started. Okay, cool. I think I could do that. So I'm just going to concentrate on Black nerds and what they like. And they like a whole myriad of stuff, but this is a group of people that a lot of companies don't talk to.
Right.
So if you don't talk to these people, they have money. They buy all the damn things. They really do.
Oh, yeah.
They're extremely loyal, but they weren't talking to them. Like, even when Black Panther came out, like, I knew what that was going to be when they had the announcement, and we were at New York Comic-Con, and we had a whole panel, and that came up, and we were like, how we were going to support it. Like, people planned to actively support it.
Right.
And then so people were already planning to buy out theaters months before the damn trailer dropped, and then it just went out like wildfire. And they didn't have any toys for Black Panther. They didn't do toys based in the movie because they didn't think it was going to do that well.
Lauren, do you have your own web page?
Oh yeah, we have a few, because we're in different different places. We see my company wolfpackleads.com is there.
What's that called?
Wolfpack Leads.
Wolfpackleads.com. If you go there, it's not based on my comic book people. However, if you are a comic book person, creator, that stuff, I do have a different place for you to go where you can join, of course, my email list, because how the hell am I going to talk about something I'm not going to do? Right? You can go to sxbxs.me/sales. That will take you to
put that in the private chat, would you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna put it in a private chat right there.
It's all crazy.
I know it's crazy, but I gotta protect my time. People ask me silly questions on these Facebook places. They be like, hey, can you do this? I'll be like, I'm literally working on other businesses and stuff like that. Yeah. So you can go there and sign up for there, be on the email list. So I know you guys are creators because I get people who have other things going on,
Right.
which is different from my creative folks. I talk to you guys a little differently because
Right.
you got easier things to sell and different issues than people trying to get a product launch together for like dog food or water bottles. So
Right. Right.
two different things. So I keep you guys separate so you guys can go there. I'm around. You can go to on Facebook, Nights of G. I stream, but I do talk about business stuff occasionally on there. So you can always, folks can always hit me up there. Definitely grab on the email list. That's easier. What other questions did Mike have, or because Mike's the one, he got all the stuff going on. JS, you ain't doing nothing. You just got this, this little thing on the side. This.
Whatever.
I've been taking notes through this whole thing, and you've given me a ton of ideas and a wealth of material, enough to let me coast for a while. But,
Yeah,
but I will be in touch with you via Facebook and email.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think for some people, they don't realize how easy things can get or be, especially my folks who are con folks who, when everything shut down in 2020, I'm like, all right, guys, this is what you're going to do. You're going to put a website up. You're going to put a little website. It don't have to look pretty. We just need to be able to sell your things. That's all we're trying to do is sell your things. Just slap things in there. Don't have to be cute. Everybody online, on Twitter especially, on the con space, was looking for things to buy. So all the folks who sold pins, I'm like, on Twitter, people were looking to buy pins, and pins $15, $20 people pay for, pins that cost about $2 or less to actually make, right? So I'm like, guys, throw a website up, just have the pins on it. Don't put your crap on Etsy. We're not going to do that. WooCommerce, free plugin, plug it into this, and just have the pins up and tell people on Twitter, all you're going to do for the entire week is tweet about the pins are on sale. So the folks who did that actually got to sell their pins. So they had some income coming in, which was beautiful. One of the other comic book writers, he's like, oh, I got all this. He has boxes and cases of stuff because he thought he was going to cons that year.
Right. Yeah.
Here we did Gumroad. Got a little Gumroad thing together. It wasn't pretty, but it was effective. He sold everything that he had. He was more successful selling that online during that time with us, just a cheap Gumroad site, which is free, and putting his stuff up there than he did going to 10 cons a year.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, it doesn't have to be pretty in the beginning. Over time, you work on those things to look better and be more functional. But just getting started, done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
And if I can get you guys to creators to understand that done is better than perfect, you will get to the point where it's just like, wow, why didn't I do this before? Because it can be overwhelming. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But we just want to get you one step at a time, one foot in front of another.
But you want to be, but that's the thing too, that, we want to be real, and that's what the people respond to too. I mean, because they'll even, they'll kind of chuckle or whatever too. It's like, okay, he's trying to sell this and he doesn't really know how to say it or like whatever. But it's like, that's just being real too. And people respond to it.
Yeah, people respond to it. I mean, it's better than being negative all the time. I mean, there's a bunch of creators on Facebook. They mad at Brandon Sanderson. He has this. I can never do it. Or I have too much hope. Now, hope thing is dangerous because these folks going to spiral into a crazy depression. So I'm watching. It's like, oh yeah, we can do it too. I said, no, baby, you are never going to sell $30 million on a Kickstarter because you ain't even doing the first thing right of anything. Yeah. This does not come for free. It does not work that way. You're building yourself up for a terrible fall down. So if you want that type of success, you probably will never do it. But that's okay to never do it. For some people, if you can consistently, there are artists on Twitch outside from Domo Stan on Twitch, right? He's an artist. He does Marvel, DC, Boom Studios, and stuff like that. He's a Twitch partner. He's grown his Twitch tremendously, right? I estimate, because I based on subscribers I've seen a month to month, he's getting at least a minimum of $3K a month from Twitch, around there. Nice. In terms of gross sales, if not more, based on the things that I could see. I'm estimating he's not doing less than that a month on Twitch. That's wonderful. There's a whole lot of people I know, they wish, damn, wouldn't it be nice to have an extra $3,000 that was always here because people just like to watch you draw?
Yeah.
That's amazing. You don't get DC don't pay you to sit down like to the draw. You're not selling. He's not doing anything else. He's just drawing. DC pays you when you do the final product.
Right. Yep.
Not month to month. So when the drawing's done, that's the end of your revenue. He draws whatever. Talking about drawing, talking about he loves wrestling and teaching people how to draw figures correctly. That's all the world he's doing. That's a beautiful thing. But he built that one step at a time, did this, got that set up, and talk to other people, because community is part of it, interacting with your community, but also your other artists. I mean, it's a bunch of you. I mean, I think it would be really cool if a whole bunch of people got together and did Kickstarters, because people have different audiences.
Right.
Sometimes grabbing those people together and leveraging everybody can lift all boats. I haven't really seen that, because it would be nice to, hey, listen, we're going to do our Kickstarters. I'm going to do mine first. You're going to do your second. You're going to do your third. I'm going to take my audience. You're going to take your audiences, talk about my stuff and promote mine. And then we're going to move them on to yours. And then we're going to move them on to the next one. That works.
Yep. Well, you have given us a ton to think about and to get busy on. So if you didn't catch her places to check her stuff out and everything, you'll be able to rewind this video or whatever and go back and get it. And we'll try to put some of the information up in the in the description and everything for you. Give you some links that you can find if you want to reach out to her.
Find me, Knights of G, on Facebook. I stream, but you can send messages there. Easy. Yeah. I try to keep my creative folks separate from my other folks.
Yep.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. It's been awesome.
Yeah, awesome hanging out with you guys as well. Two busy guys.
Yeah. Thankfully.
You'll still be busy, hopefully.
Yeah. All right, guys, we are here with another indie creator. She has her Indiegogo coming up at the end of this month, April, and it is called Black Rhapsody. I know you can't see the background really great, but she has some really great art for her campaign, which you're going to be seeing throughout this interview. Really good stuff. And I just wanted to know how you got into comics or manga or however you got into storytelling, whatever.
I got into manga during my middle school years when I stumbled upon a shoujo manga by the name of Red River, which is a time travel romance.
Nice.
And I looked through. First of all, it was like a random volume, like it was further into the story, so I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
Only thing I know is that I liked the art of it. It looked cool. And like with anybody who gets into manga, I read it wrong.
Right.
As you do. Started going to my local library, my school library, to find some more manga, and lo and behold, I found more just like it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've been, it's good for you guys. When I was, I loved manga and anime when I was young, but they did not have very much in the United States when I was young. So how did you develop this story, or how did it come to you?
My love of magical girl anime growing up, like Sailor Moon, Tokyo Mew Mew, Magical Doremi, Cardcaptor Sakura.
Yeah.
And My Hime, which was my favorite magical girl anime, and probably one of the first dark magical girl anime prior to Madoka. Madoka isn't the first one; it's just the more well-known one because it deconstructs the magical girl genre. So I wanted to, me being a lover of dark stories and some horror stories, I wanted to do my own take on it, but with a horror twist.
Is there anything about the story you can share without spoiling too much of it?
Teenage goth girl pisses off a Lovecraftian pop star. I'm not gonna say how she does it, but let's just say egos are involved, mistakes were made, that's how I got die.
You're mainly the writer on this, right?
Yes, I'm the writer.
And how did you find the artist?
I found Jan, my artist Jan Apple, through ArtStation, and I looked through some of her work. She has published some stuff in the past, and I thought that her style would be great for Black Rhapsody. It's going to be entirely black and white, with color being a stretch goal for the campaign.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good goal. Because well, I mean, which is fine because it works. I mean, since it's more of a manga style, anyways, it's like that'll yeah, it works either way. Something that you ended up figuring out or kind of conquering, and you learned it, but yeah.
I will have to say the editing process, which was awful, because I had to retroactively change my entire story. And when you're an upcoming writer, you tend to have a bit of an ego. Let's be honest, we all have that.
Yeah.
And I had to literally put my ego aside and do what was best for my book.
Yeah.
Because there are some ideas I want to include, but my editor told me it wouldn't be feasible or wouldn't make sense later on.
Yeah. Do you know how many pages you're planning on for it?
For the first book, it's going to be 35 pages plus, just in case if we need to add something or take something away in the story.
Places to follow you on social media.
You can follow me on social media at Magic Media or on my Twitter, or you can email me at magicalmedia@gmail.com. I'm currently hosting a fan art contest for Black Rhapsody, and the theme of the contest is dark parodies of music album covers and concert posters of characters of certain genres. So if you wanted to participate in the contest, just email me at magicalmedia@gmail.com, where I provide you a list of characters and clarify certain rules. If you want the detailed rules of the contest, you can go on my pinned tweet on my Twitter account and just scroll down to it because I posted it there along with the art for Black Rhapsody. Black Rhapsody is a 35 page plus manga-esque horror cult thriller comic about musical magical girls in a fight against a Lovecraftian pop star and her evil music empire. Said Lovecraftian pop star is based on none other than Beyonce Knowles. So it's magical girls versus Lovecraftian Beyonce, or just Beyonce if you want to be technical about it. And bloody good fun.
Well, yeah, best of luck to you, and hope hope this helps. I think it will. I think people will really like all the art they see, and I think it's a clever story. Yeah, I think there's I would love to see this in some sort of anime form or live action.
I want that so badly.
Yeah, this sounds like it would really work in that. So hopefully you get to do that sometime in the not too distant future. This is the beginning. This is the starting point. So go check out the Indiegogo and go ahead and sign up so that you can be notified when it launches and be a part of this with her first campaign. And it's a clever idea. It's got great art. Even if it wasn't a great idea, the art is fantastic in it, but it is a great idea. So,
if you like the darkness of Puella Madoka Magica and the ultra violence of Berserk, sign up for the mailing list for Black Rhapsody Part 1 today and back the book on April 29th when it launches.
Like she said.